The night begins quietly, the air without urgency, carrying the faint scent of rain that never fell. Across the empty streets of an old town, a slow wind drifts, brushing against walls that have forgotten the sound of voices. Lamps are out, doors are closed, and only the uneven rhythm of the wind remains, whispering through narrow alleys where time seems to have stopped. Somewhere beyond the gates, near the outline of a wooden platform, a man moves alone. His hands are steady, his breath measured, his work deliberate. The blade in his grip catches a small thread of moonlight, glimmering like a quiet thought that refuses to fade. He sharpens, not with haste, but with care, the motion practiced so many times, it has become a kind of prayer to precision. The world sleeps unaware of him, and perhaps that is mercy. This is not a tale of glory nor one of punishment. It is the slow story of a man who stands in the narrow space between necessity and memory, between what must be done and what must never be spoken. His name does not travel far, but his presence shapes the silence of a town that prefers to look away. He walks unseen through mornings and returns through evenings, his life bound not by choice, but by the quiet inheritance of a role no one envies. He does not curse it, nor seek to escape. He has learned that acceptance is the gentlest form of survival. The night folds around him as he works, the faint scrape of metal on stone, rising and falling like breath. Beyond the walls, the grass bends beneath the wind, and in the dim light, even the shadows seem to hold their breath. He is not cruel, not proud, not even sad. Simply a man existing within the rhythm assigned to him, where duty is constant and peace is borrowed. The world required his hands, yet never his company. And so he remains where he has always been, half seen, half forgotten, existing in the small space between justice and exile. Tonight, we walk beside him, not to judge, not to fear, but to listen to the quiet his life has left behind. Let the noise fade, let the stillness return, let the story begin. Life is predetermined. You are born into a name that is already chosen, a story written before you could speak. In a small wooden house near the edge of a medieval town, the smell of smoke and metal fills the air, seeping into every fibre of cloth, into every breath. Your father sharpens iron at dawn, his movement steady, unspoken, measured by years of habit. The rhythmic scrape of stone against steel is the first sound you learn to recognize. A lullaby made of labor. Your mother tends the hearth in silence, keeping the fire alive as if it were something sacred, because in a house like this, warmth is not comfort, it is survival. The days begin with smoke and end with silence. Outside, the world continues without you. The market cries, the echo of hooves, the laughter of other children chasing wooden wheels down the cobbled road. But their laughter does not reach your yard. You watch them from behind the half-open door, your hands gripping the frame, your eyes following the brightness that never turns toward you. Even before you can walk, you understand something without needing to be told. The world already knows who you are, and it has decided to keep its distance. In this time, work is not chosen, it is inherited. The son of a farmer tills the same earth his father did. The daughter of a weaver learns the same patterns her mother's hands once traced. And you, the child of an executioner, are born to carry the same blade that cast the shadow over your home. There are no choices in this lineage, only continuity. The craft of death passes like an heirloom, polished, kept sharp, and never spoken of aloud. You do not apply, you do not ask, you simply become. There are no teachers beyond your blood, no lessons beyond observation. You learn the rhythm of your father's work, long before you understand its meaning. The weight of the axe, the stillness before the strike, the silence that follows after. When you sleep, you dream of the ringing sound of metal, the dull echo that never leaves your ears. As the seasons turn, you grow taller, quieter. The townspeople know your name, but rarely use it. When you walk past the well, conversations lower into whispers. At the market, hands pause mid-gesture. Some look away quickly as though your presence itself carries a shadow. Others pretend not to notice, though their eyes linger. You do not return their gaze. You have learned, even as a child, that silence protects better than explanation. Words can be twisted, but silence is clean. You carry it like armor. The boundaries of your world are small but defined, the forge, the house, the worn path that leads toward the gallows. You are not forbidden to leave, yet the invisible line is always there. You feel it when your steps slow near the town walls, when you see the cluster of roofs and the faint blur of movement beyond. You belong to the same place, but not the same people. It is a strange kind of exile, one that comes without punishment, without crime, only inheritance. Your toys are carved from leftover wood, small axes, blunt knives, little figures without faces. They are silent companions, shaped by your father's rough hands and handed to you with a nod. Your bedtime stories are not about heroes or dragons, but about justice and law, about men who break the rules and the hands that must carry out the sentence. You learn early that fairness is not always kind and duty is not always clean. Yet beneath it all you sense that your father's silence is not hardness but restraint, the only form of dignity he is allowed. He never explains and you never ask. The unspoken becomes the language of your home. There are days when you watch him prepare his tools in the yard, the late sun catching on the curved edge of iron. He moves with precision, without pride, without hurry. You stand nearby, pretending to sweep, pretending not to look. He notices but says nothing. The air between you is filled with understanding. The work will be yours one day. It is not a promise. It is simply truth. You begin to notice how the world bends around your family. Merchants sell to others first. Children are warned not to wander near your home. The priest's blessing stops just short of your threshold. And yet, the same townspeople who avoid you come knocking when the law calls for your father's hand. You see it in their faces. A mixture of need and disgust. And though you are too young to name it, you already understand that this contradiction will define your life. In the evenings, when the sky burns red behind the rooftops, your mother sits by the fire, her face turned toward the fading light. She hums softly, not a song of joy, but of endurance. The house smells of smoke and iron. You sit by the window, tracing your finger through the dust on the sill, watching as the town's lights flicker awake in the distance. You wonder what it feels like to belong somewhere without being seen. You imagine stepping into that brightness, hearing laughter that doesn't stop when you pass, but the thought fades as quickly as it comes. You have been taught not to reach for things that are not yours to touch. Sometimes, late at night, when the town sleeps, you hear your father return from the square. The door opens quietly, his steps slow. The sound of metal placed gently on wood. He sits by the fire for a long time, staring at nothing, his hands resting on his knees. You pretend to sleep, but you can feel the heaviness in the air, not sorrow, not guilt, only the weight of what must be done. It is the same weight that will one day rest on your shoulders. Years later, when you take his place, you will remember these small silences, the smell of oil and ash, the sound of sharpening steel, the faces that never meet yours. You will carry them all as part of your craft, like hidden tools within the mind. And though the world will still keep its distance, you will no longer resent it. You will understand that distance is its own kind of mercy, a space between what you must do and who you are allowed to be. From the beginning, you knew one truth, and it remains unchanged. The world will always keep its distance, but within that distance, you will find something steady, a rhythm that belongs only to you, where silence becomes language and solitude becomes home. A career of contradictions. You are necessary, but never welcome. Your name is known in every corner of the town, yet spoken only in whispers. When you walk the narrow street in the morning light, the market slows, not from respect, but from unease. The same people who avoid your path will one day call for your hands, needing what they cannot bear to perform. They will bring your payment, always wrapped in cloth, so their skin never meets yours, and then step back quickly as though your shadow itself might stain them. You take the coins quietly, nod once, and return home by the longer road where the air feels less watched. You serve justice, yet you stand apart from it, a figure both inside and outside the circle of law. You are the edge that cuts, the boundary that defines the rest. Your work is known by everyone but understood by no one. You are both the act and the reminder, the proof that order comes with a price. When you enter the square, voices fall. Children are pulled closer to their mothers, even the stray dogs lower their heads. No one speaks, but the silence tells you what you already know, that your presence carries the weight of fear. You do not seek it, yet it follows you. Fear is the tax your existence collects, even when you wish to move unseen. You are not cruel, you are not proud, you are only performing what the law demands, though the law refuses to stand beside you. When you buy bread, the baker looks down. When you offer silver, the merchant hesitates. Some whisper that your coins are heavy with sorrow, that they carry the echo of final words. You have heard it many times, and the sting has dulled. The world invents stories when it cannot understand. You have learned that silence travels farther than defense, that calmness is stronger than denial. So you simply pay, take what you need, and leave before your presence becomes too heavy for others to bear. It is not anger that you feel, only recognition. The distance between you and them is not born from cruelty. It is a habit passed down through generations, a pattern of survival disguised as caution. The paradox of your life deepens with each passing year. You are essential to the kingdom's peace, yet excluded from its comfort. Without your hand, the law would lose its body, its final act. Yet you are never invited to the tables where laws are written. Your work sustains their order, but your name remains unwritten in their histories. You exist between lines, between breaths, in the quiet space where necessity hides its shame. When justice is served, others speak of it with pride. When you serve it, they look away. And so you learn to live without recognition, without approval, without belonging. At times, when you pass through the square at dusk, you catch the reflection of yourself in the darkened windows, the faint shimmer of your outline against the fading sky. You look ordinary, almost invisible, yet every glance from a passerby reminds you otherwise. Their eyes hold both need and denial, gratitude and disgust. You are the contradiction they cannot resolve, the one they depend upon but cannot accept. You see it in their faces, the relief that you exist and the wish that you didn't. You are not a villain, but you stand in the place where villains are made. There are moments when the boundaries blur. A man approaches you on the road, his voice trembling, offering wine in apology for his earlier rudeness. He insists he respects your duty, that his fear was only instinct. You nod and accept his kindness, though you know by morning he will avoid your eyes again. It is not hypocrisy, it is human frailty, the natural recoil from what reminds us of endings. You have come to understand it deeply. You do not blame them. In truth, you envy them. Their ability to forget, to move on, to see each dawn as a clean beginning. For you, there are no beginnings, only continuations. The work never truly leaves you. Even when your hands are empty, the weight remains. You feel it when you wash, when you eat, when you sit beneath the quiet trees outside town. The rhythm of duty has carved itself into your body. You walk with the calm of someone who has seen too much to be surprised. Yet within that calm lives a tenderness few would suspect, a soft regard for the fragile, fleeting things that others overlook. The way sunlight glints on water, the warmth of bread in your palms, the hush of distant bells before dusk. You cling to these small things, not because you are sentimental, but because they are the few moments untouched by judgment. At home, the walls are plain. There are no decorations, no portraits. The air smells of oil and wood. You keep your tools wrapped in cloth, always clean, always hidden. You treat them not as instruments of harm, but as extensions of order. Tools that exist so others may sleep believing in justice. Sometimes, when you run your hand along the smooth handle of the axe, you imagine the countless lives that have passed beneath it, and you wonder briefly if any of them thought of you in their final moment. Then you stop yourself. That kind of thinking leads nowhere. You are not meant to feel, only to act. The seasons change and the faces in the crowd change with them. Yet the feeling remains the same. The pause in air when you enter a room, the invisible space people leave around you, the way the town seems to hold its breath until you are gone. You live quietly with this, not as punishment, but as fact. You have found a strange peace in being misunderstood. There is freedom in knowing that no one expects kindness from you. No one asks for conversation. No one demands explanation. You are left alone, and solitude, once forced upon you, becomes a kind of refuge. In the end, you come to see your life as a mirror held to the world's contradictions. You are what happens when necessity meets denial, when justice wears a human face. You do not belong entirely to cruelty nor mercy, but to the narrow space between them, the space that keeps both from collapsing. Each day you wake, perform your role, and fade again into the background. The town continues, the law endures, and you remain its shadow, unseen but indispensable. You are the line between chaos and order, the stillness that allows others to move freely. You have no praise, no honor, but you have purpose. And in that purpose, quiet and uncelebrated, lies a truth few will ever understand. That sometimes the most necessary hands are the ones no one wishes to hold. The art of precision. From childhood, your lessons are precise, shaped not by words, but by rhythm. You grow beneath the sound of grinding stone and the smell of hot iron, watching your father's hands move with calm certainty. There are no speeches, no formal teaching, only the repetition of motion, the quiet expectation that one day you will understand. You study the weight of an axe before you can lift it properly, learning where balance hides, where strength ends and control begins. The curve of bone, the patience of breath, the stillness before motion, all become parts of the same language. You are taught that hesitation is cruelty, that mercy lies not in avoidance, but in precision. to strike once, cleanly, without waste or fear. That is compassion in this world, and it must be learned slowly through silence. Each motion is deliberate, each pause intentional. Your father's eyes watch closely, not with harshness, but with a tired understanding. When you falter, he does not correct you with anger. He simply repeats the movement again and again until you can mimic it without thought. The lessons are not written, yet they carve themselves into you. The body remembers long after the mind questions. The axe becomes an extension of your arm, the rhythm of your heart aligned with its swing. You learn that the body must move without hesitation. The hand must not betray the heart. There is a strange grace in it, a discipline that demands you set emotion aside, that you act with focus, not feeling. The world outside knows nothing of this art. To them, your work is brutality. To you, it is a craft, one that requires balance, restraint, and understanding. You know how to measure distance, how to read the tension in a neck or the trembling of shoulders. You know when fear will make a man flinch, and how to time your motion so that his last moment passes swiftly. You are not cruel, you are careful. That distinction is what keeps your hand steady and your soul intact. Each breath before the strike is a kind of prayer, not to gods or saints, but to order itself, to the fragile thread that keeps the world from unraveling. In time, you stop counting how many lessons you've practiced. The movements come without thought. The air before the strike feels heavier, charged with expectation. You wait for the right second, the perfect alignment between stillness and release. It is not about strength, but timing. You learn to listen, not with your ears, but with your skin, with the faint tremor of air before silence breaks. When it is done correctly, there is no noise beyond the whisper of steel meeting its purpose. The moment passes, and the world exhales again. Your training teaches you patience more than skill. There are hours, days, even seasons where you do nothing but wait, sharpen, prepare. The repetition itself becomes a kind of meditation. You learn to find comfort in the steady scrape of the whetstone, in the small sparks that rise like fleeting stars and disappear before touching ground. The world slows when you work. Even your heartbeat begins to follow the rhythm of the blade. You come to understand that mastery is not in motion but in stillness, in the space between thought and action. There is no praise when you finish a lesson, no approval, no applause. The world outside will never call it art, but you know differently. The faint whisper of steel being sharpened again becomes its own kind of reward. A reminder that perfection is never final, that even the most careful hands must return to the beginning. You do not strive for glory, you strive for consistency. You are not building a name, but a steadiness that cannot break. And so the years pass in quiet repetition. The tools change slightly, the air grows thicker with age, but the rhythm remains. You have become what you were meant to be, not a man of power, but of precision. Every motion, every breath, every silence is part of a single, unending lesson, that true mercy is clean, swift, and unspoken. The ritual of the crowd. When the day arrives, you step onto the platform as the sky hangs low and grey, heavy with the weight of unspoken expectation. The air feels thicker here, as though it remembers every breath that has ever trembled upon it. Your hands do not shake, though you feel the pull of 100 eyes tracing your every movement. You have walked this path before, through the narrow streets, past the murmuring crowds, into the open square where the world gathers to watch what it claims to despise. It is not vengeance they come for, though they will say it is. It is not justice, Though they will whisper that word like a charm, they come for the rhythm, the spectacle, the brief alignment between fear and fascination that keeps them from thinking too long about themselves. The crowd gathers early, farmers, merchants, children on tiptoes. The air hums with a kind of restrained hunger, not for blood, but for the shared certainty of the event. They want to see what they already know will happen because it reminds them that order still holds, that chaos, for now, has been pushed back. They say they despise the act, but they remain, eyes fixed, breath held, unwilling to turn away. You stand in the center, the quiet axis of their unease. The wooden platform creaks beneath your boots, a sound swallowed quickly by the murmuring wind. The rope sways slightly above, the tools glint faintly below. Everything is prepared, and still you wait, not for the condemned, but for the silence that always comes before. When the moment begins, it moves slowly, as if time itself takes a careful breath. You step forward, your feet knowing exactly where to fall. The world narrows to the rhythm of your pulse, the faint whistle of the wind against the blade. You have practiced this motion so many times that it feels almost sacred now, not a gesture of violence, but of completion. One clean motion. That is your art. The weight of it is not in the swing, but in the control, the understanding that mercy lives in precision. You strike not to punish, but to end. And in that strange, fragile instant, you are not man or monster, only function. The world holds its breath, and when the sound finally breaks, it is not loud, it is final. If you falter, the sound shifts. A gasp, a ripple of discontent that moves through the crowd like wind through leaves. They do not speak, but their faces change. Disappointment mingles with relief, horror with pity. You feel it all, even if your eyes never rise. If you succeed, silence deepens. There are no cheers, no approval. The air stills as if unwilling to disturb the boundary that has just been crossed. You step back, your motion steady, your expression calm. It is not pride that fills you, only a hollow kind of awareness. The knowledge that your precision has spared someone a few extra moments of fear. The crowd shifts. The spell breaks. The faint rustle of clothing fills the air as people turn away, returning to their lives, their errands, their small, familiar worries. The same hands that clutched at their throats will soon hold bread, count coins, light candles. The same eyes that watched you will later look at their children and pretend they saw nothing. It is the way of things. No one will speak your name aloud, not tonight, not ever. But when another sentence is announced, they will gather again, exactly as before, as though drawn by instinct. The ritual continues because it must. It is not cruelty that keeps it alive, but habit. When it is over, you remain for a moment longer, letting the quiet settle. The air feels oddly light now, emptied of expectation. You clean your tools, methodical, unhurried. The wooden boards beneath your boots still carry warmth from the day. The scent of iron lingers, faint and metallic, mixing with the wind. Somewhere beyond the square, a bell begins to toll. Not for you, not for the one who has gone, but for the simple passage of time. You listen to it as you gather your things, its rhythm folding into your own. You walk home through the empty streets, the sky now fading toward dusk. Windows close as you pass, not out of fear, but because the day has ended and the living must return to their own kind of silence. Your steps are slow, deliberate, steady. The sound of your boots against the stones follows you like a heartbeat, fading, returning, fading again. You carry the same quiet you left with, though it feels heavier now, as if it has absorbed the stillness of all who watched. It will stay with you, this quiet, not haunting, not cruel, simply constant. The night will come and the world will forget. But you will remember, not the faces, not the noise, only the rhythm, the order, the strange peace that follows when the crowd is gone. And as the darkness folds around the town once more, you understand what your father once meant when he said that duty has no applause. It ends the way it begins, in silence. Beyond the northern gate. Your home lies beyond the northern gate, where the cobblestones thin into dirt and the wind moves without resistance. The air there feels different, less burdened by the noise of trade, more honest in its emptiness. The city has no room for you within its walls, so you live just beyond them, in the quiet space between belonging and exile. The wooden gallows stands not far away, its frame weathered by years of rain and sun. The trees that bend nearby have grown used to its shadow. Their branches creak softly, as if whispering to the dead. In summer, the grass rises high and golden, swaying like slow fire beneath the wind. In winter, frost settles deep in the wood, and the house breathes cold through its seams. Yet this is your place, a small shelter built close to your work, neither hidden nor welcomed, a home only by necessity, never by name. The path to it is narrow, lined with mud and silence. Few people ever travel it willingly. Those who do walk quickly, eyes lowered, as though distance might protect them from recognition. The road bends slightly at the base of a hill where an old post once marked the edge of the town's safety. Beyond that, the earth grows rougher, the grass wild. Your boots know every uneven stone, every hollow where rain collects. The world here feels smaller, but not unkind, only stripped of ceremony, stripped of pretense. The air carries no laughter, no song, only the low hum of wind moving through the reeds. When storms come, no one knocks to see if you are safe. The thunder rolls over the city first, then moves northward toward your roof, as though even the weather remembers its hierarchy. Rain seeps through the edges of your window, dripping into the same grooves it has carved over years. You sit by the fire, listening to the sound, neither lonely nor afraid. You have long stopped expecting company. There was a time, early on, when you waited. A neighbor, perhaps, a kind word, a lantern at your door. But kindness seldom travels this far. The road itself seems to discourage it. The mud thickens, the light fades, and by the time one reaches your threshold, compassion has turned into silence. At night, the glow from the town stretches faintly across the horizon, but stops short of your yard. You can see it from your window, a halo of gold that hovers above the rooftops, flickering like a distant memory. The light is comforting in its way, though it no longer belongs to you. It marks the rhythm of another life, one filled with laughter, bargaining, celebration. You are close enough to hear its faint echoes when the wind turns right, close enough to serve when duty calls, yet far enough to be forgotten the moment the need passes. You live at the edge of usefulness, a boundary the world keeps but never thanks. Each morning the bells ring from the high tower at the center of town. Their sound reaches you clearly, sharp and bright, cutting through the mist that hangs over the fields. It calls bakers to their ovens, merchants to their stalls, mothers to wake their children. The sound belongs to everyone, everyone except you. You hear it, but it no longer stirs you to motion. You do not rush or rise, you only listen. The rhythm of the bells reminds you that life continues elsewhere, orderly and predictable. It is a reminder without invitation. Sometimes, on rare mornings, you walk as far as the gate, stopping just short of the guard's post. They nod politely, but do not speak. Behind them, the city hums. Carts rolling, wheels clattering, voices merging into the pulse of commerce. You stand there a while, letting the sound wash over you. Then quietly, you turn back. The road home feels longer in those moments, not because of distance, but because of what lies unseen behind the walls. The air beyond the walls feels colder, though you have long stopped noticing. The wind here carries no perfume from the market, no smoke from the bakeries, only the dry scent of soil and pine. It is a cleaner air, if lonelier. The seasons change more honestly in this place. You feel them in your bones, in the texture of the wood, in the way your breath lingers at dawn. Some nights, when sleep will not come, you step outside and look up at the stars. They hang low over the gallows, silent, unjudging. For a moment, the boundary between you and the world feels less sharp. You live where the city's voice fades, where no one lingers but the wind. And though the road to your door is one most avoid, it is the only road that truly belongs to you. You have come to understand that distance is not cruelty, it is design. It keeps the world in balance. It keeps you apart. It keeps you whole. And in that quiet beyond the northern gate, where the air grows still and the earth remembers every footstep, you have found something close to peace. A family apart. Your world is shaped by distance, from others, from comfort, from belonging. The space between your home and the town is more than a measure of land. It is a quiet border drawn by the world itself, invisible yet always felt. Even in moments of calm, when the fields shimmer with morning dew and the air smells faintly of wet earth, that border holds firm. You live close enough to hear the church bells, yet too far for anyone to hear you answer. You belong neither to the silence of the wilderness nor the hum of the city. You exist between them, a shadow that both sides have agreed not to claim. The path to your door grows softer with time, grass slowly reclaiming its edges, as if even the earth understands how to keep its distance. Your children grow up in this stillness, among quiet fields where voices seldom visit. They chase each other through tall grass and return home with burrs clinging to their sleeves, their laughter brief and careful, like birdsong before rain. They learn early not to linger where others gather, not to cross the unseen line that divides curiosity from intrusion. When they do wander close to the gate, they see the other children watching from the walls. Curious but unmoving, eyes filled with a mix of wonder and fear. The moment passes in silence, a stare exchanged and broken, the distance between them remaining unspoken. You do not need to warn your children. The world teaches them gently but firmly that they are different. Inside your home, life moves in quiet rhythm. The fire crackles, the kettle hums, and your wife hums softly while mending torn fabric by the light of a single candle. Your children sit nearby, tracing their fingers over the grain of the wood, drawing imaginary maps of places they will never see. They ask small questions: why others do not visit, why the baker's son turned away, why their mother never goes to the market. You answer without bitterness, explaining that the world simply forgets what it fears. They accept it the way children do, not with sadness, but with a kind of wisdom too early learned. They play again, their laughter subdued, as though instinctively aware that too much joy might echo too loudly in a house like yours. When you walk with them through the fields, you notice how they keep close, their hands brushing yours as though the world might shift beneath their feet if they stray too far. You see in them the quiet strength of those born to silence, a steadiness that needs no validation. They are not angry, not ashamed. They have simply learned that solitude is the shape of their inheritance. Sometimes you catch your reflection in their eyes and see what you have passed on. Not wealth, not name, but a kind of stillness that endures. At dusk, when the city lights rise behind the trees, your family often stops to look toward the glow. The distance softens the town into a shimmer of gold and smoke, almost beautiful from where you stand. You can hear the faint rhythm of bells, the far-off laughter of people gathering for the evening meal. Your children stare for a while, their faces calm, and you realize they already understand what you never had to explain. They know that some doors will never open for them, that some names travel only in whispers. They know the difference between being seen and being accepted. The seasons pass, and they grow within the rhythm of your silence. They help you with your work, learning the patience of waiting, the discipline of quiet hands. The neighbors' children learn songs and dances. Yours learn endurance, the art of staying unseen without vanishing. You sometimes wonder if this will make them lonely, if they will carry this quiet into their own lives. But then you see them together, sharing bread, laughter, small secrets, and you realize that even isolation can become its own kind of belonging. Their world may be small, but it is whole. On some evenings, when the air cools and the first stars appear, you sit with your wife outside the door. The children chase fireflies, their laughter drifting softly through the dusk. The sound feels fragile, almost holy, and for a moment you forget the boundary that separates you from the world. The trees sway gently, the wind carries the smell of faraway fires, and you breathe in the peace that distance brings. You do not envy those within the walls anymore. You have built a smaller world, but a steadier one, a place untouched by the shifting moods of the crowd. In that quiet, your family learns the same truth you live each day, that being needed is not the same as being welcome. Yet, within the narrow space left to you, love still grows, steady and unspoken. The world beyond may never know your name, but in the light of your own hearth, that no longer matters. Here, in the calm between exile and home, you have found something purer than acceptance. You have found peace. The edge of every circle. There are halls you do not enter, though their doors are not locked. You pass them often. Bright places filled with music and warmth, where voices overlap like threads in a tapestry. For a moment you might slow your step, listening to the echo of laughter spilling into the street, the sound of glasses raised, the rhythm of a world that moves without you. But you never stop for long. You know your place. You live near the edge of every circle, close enough to hear life's noise, too distant to join its pattern. The boundary is invisible yet absolute, drawn not by law but by habit, a collective understanding that requires no words. You have grown used to the edge. From there, you can see clearly the light of others, the rhythm of gatherings, the shape of joy from afar. You know the way sound travels at night, how laughter fades softer in the distance, how music seems slower when you are not inside its warmth. You no longer reach for it. The hunger to belong has thinned, replaced by quiet observation. You have become a watcher of lives, a keeper of silences. When the square fills with color and voices, you walk the outer roads, your steps steady, your eyes lowered. It is not bitterness that guides you, but peace, the peace of not expecting what will never arrive. When festivals rise, you watch from the hill beyond the northern fields. From there, the town looks almost unreal, a soft glow against the dark, each flickering light a reminder of distance. The air carries traces of music, the faint pulse of drums, the thin laughter of children who have never learned your name. You sit among the tall grass and let the sound reach you as a distant hum, neither joyful nor sad, simply there. The night sky stretches wide above you, a canvas of stars unmoved by the noise below. For a while you imagine the town as a living thing, breathing, turning, dreaming, and yourself as its quiet shadow, necessary only because light must end somewhere. When candles burn in windows, you let yours stay dark. Not in defiance, but in balance. The world needs its edges as much as its center. You have learned the pattern well. Light belongs to others, shadow belongs to you. The two cannot exist apart, and you no longer wish to change that. From your window you can see the faint reflection of their glow on the clouds, soft, golden, eternal. You imagine the warmth within those rooms. Voices layered over one another, the clinking of cups, the sound of stories being told. Then you turn back to your own quiet space, the fire low, the air calm. Silence, in its own way, is another kind of company. You move through life gently without demanding space. You know where to stand so others do not flinch. You know when to step aside before footsteps reach you. It is not anger that guides this motion, nor sorrow, only understanding, the quiet shape of a life that has learned to expect distance. The world has its own rhythm, and you have found peace in walking beside it rather than within it. You no longer wonder what you are missing. You no longer measure yourself against the noise. The absence of inclusion has become its own kind of freedom. At night, as you walk home through the same narrow path, the air smells faintly of pine and smoke. The earth beneath your boots is worn smooth by solitude, its familiarity a comfort. The moonlight glints along the edge of the fields, tracing the outlines of your shadow. You pause for a moment, feeling the wind brush your face. Cool, steady, alive. In that moment, you realize that you are not outside the circle after all. You are its border, the silent line that holds it together. Without edges, there can be no shape. Without distance, no depth. And so, you walk on, neither bitter nor alone, carrying the quiet wisdom of the edge, a truth too simple to name, yet strong enough to last a lifetime. The edge of every circle. There are halls you do not enter, though their doors remain open. The music from within drifts through the evening air. Faint strings, low voices, the sound of cups being raised. But it stops short before reaching you fully. You stand at a distance, a watcher at the edge of warmth, feeling the soft pulse of life that belongs elsewhere. The streetlights shimmer on stone walls, painting shadows that stretch long and thin, and you walk through them quietly, a familiar silhouette in a place that has long forgotten your name. You live near the edge of every circle, close enough to hear the laughter, too distant to join. The air here is gentler, unclaimed, carrying neither welcome nor rejection, only acceptance of what is. You have learned the geography of distance as others learn the layout of their town. You know which alleys stay empty, which hours keep the streets clear, which paths curve away from the sound of crowds. When gatherings begin, you move toward the quiet hills beyond the northern fields, where the light of torches glows faintly against the horizon. From there, the music reaches you only as vibration, a low hum threading through the air like a memory half remembered. The night wind brings fragments of laughter, the scent of bread, the faint echo of footsteps. Small pieces of a world you once tried to enter, now content only to observe. The hill beneath your feet is cool and steady, the grass bending in slow rhythm with the breeze. You watch from afar as the festival grows, figures moving in circles, the shimmer of ribbons and fire, the shifting gold of lanterns floating above roofs. The scene has no malice, only separation. You are not cast out, not forgotten. You are simply not expected. And with time, that absence has become easier to hold. You tell yourself it is enough to witness, to see the shapes, to hear the echoes, to know that the world continues even without your name spoken in it. The stars above are quiet companions, old enough to have seen every gathering, patient enough to keep their distance as well. When candles burn in windows, you let yours stay dark. The flame would draw attention, a reminder to others of what they prefer to forget. So instead, your house rests in shadow, its outline blending into the land. You sit by the window sometimes, looking toward the town's soft glow, watching the play of light against the mist. There is comfort in that sight, not in the warmth it promises, but in the constancy of its rhythm. Light rises, light fades, the world sleeps. You have no part in its ritual, but you understand it better than most. Light belongs to others, shadow belongs to you. It is not a rule, but a balance, and you have learned to keep it. Inside, the air is still. The fire burns low, the walls hold the scent of old smoke and rain. You hear distant bells, their chimes softened by the distance, and each note reminds you of the town's pulse. Steady, predictable, eternal. You no longer wish to join it. To live at the edge is to see clearly. Within the circle, noise hides truth. Outside it, silence reveals shape. The world beyond the walls may never call for you, but it no longer frightens you either. What once felt like exile has turned into a kind of freedom, narrow but pure. You walk home through the same narrow path, the earth worn smooth by solitude. The road curves gently through tall grass, its surface shining faintly in the moonlight. You know every stone by feel, every hollow where water gathers after rain. The night insects hum softly around you, their rhythm blending with the sound of your steps. In the distance, the city glows like a memory you no longer need. The air is cool, scented with pine and ash. You walk slowly, not to prolong the moment, but to feel its weight. The calm that comes from repetition, from the absence of surprise. There is peace in such motion, the kind that belongs to no one else. You have walked this road so many times that it feels less like travel and more like breathing. Each step erases the noise of the world. Each breath smooths the edges of thought. You begin to understand that distance is not separation, it is space, and space is where understanding lives. From here, the world seems softer, slower, less divided. You no longer stand outside the circle. You are its outline, its necessary border, the stillness that gives its motion meaning. And as you reach your door, the darkness around you feels less like absence and more like belonging. The night folds gently over the fields, the stars blink once more above the roofline, and you realize that solitude, when accepted, is simply another form of presence. You are not unseen, only quietly remembered, like the faint sound of laughter carried by wind long after the festival has ended. The habit of separation. You have learned with time that some doors remain closed no matter how gently you knock. At first, you believed patience might open them, that a kind word, a steady gaze, a quiet show of goodwill might be enough to soften the space between you and the world. But the doors stayed still, their hinges unmoved, their silence absolute. It is not punishment nor cruelty. It is simply the quiet habit of separation, practiced for so long that it has become invisible. The world keeps its distance out of custom, not malice, and you, in turn, have learned to live without asking for entry. What once felt like rejection has softened into routine. You pass by thresholds without pause, your eyes tracing the shape of their light, your steps continuing without slowing. There is no bitterness in this rhythm, only understanding. You have come to see that life is not measured by how much space you occupy, but by how calmly you inhabit what remains. The air around you carries the faint scent of iron and wood, familiar and grounding. Your thoughts move slower now, like leaves drifting along a quiet stream. You keep them within, folded neatly, like cloth, worn and softened by years of touch. The memories that once burned now only glow faintly. Reminders, not wounds. They sit quietly in the corners of your mind, asking for nothing but acknowledgement. You no longer revisit them to feel pain, only to remember the shape of what was once alive. The silence that surrounds you has become a kind of companion, steady, undemanding, constant. It follows you from dawn to dusk, from the sound of a tool being lifted to the hush of your final breath before sleep. At first, you resisted it, filling the air with movement and noise, trying to drown its presence, but over the years, you began to understand its language. Silence does not ask questions, it does not judge, it does not turn away. It simply exists, patient and whole. You find comfort in its company, a strange reassurance in its neutrality. When the world grows restless, silence remains. When people vanish, silence stays. Your days pass in rhythm. You wake, you work, you sleep. The sequence holds its shape, unbroken, familiar. There is a dignity in repetition, a quiet power in the absence of change. The body learns to move without thought, to flow through each moment without strain. The world beyond your walls may rise and fall, feast and mourn, but here the pattern endures, the tools hang in their place, the fire burns as it always has, the air hums with the steady pulse of continuation. You do not crave excitement or reward. The simplicity of the day, the predictability of its hours, has become its own kind of peace. No praise comes and none is needed, no blame follows and none is feared. You exist outside the reach of both, untouched by the fluctuations of approval. The faint echo of the town reaches you sometimes, carried by the wind, laughter, bells, the creak of carts on cobblestones. You listen without envy. The world continues, endlessly spinning, endlessly forgetting, and you, in your quiet orbit, have learned to let it. To be unseen is not the same as to be lost. You are still here, breathing, moving, maintaining. Presence does not require recognition. At night, when the light fades and the last trace of smoke leaves the chimney, you sit by the door for a while, feeling the cold settle in the wood. The sky stretches wide above, stars scattered like dust, patient and unchanging. You think of all that has passed, the faces that no longer visit, the voices that no longer call, and realize that their absence no longer hurts. It simply is. The world has a way of moving on, and you have learned to let it do so without resistance. To hold on would be to fight the tide. Letting go, you've discovered, feels like floating. In solitude, you find your balance. The mind steadies, the heart softens, the quiet ceases to feel like confinement and begins to feel like space, a space where thought can rest, where breath can stretch, where peace can finally settle. You have become the keeper of your own calm, the guardian of your small corner of time. Nothing grand, nothing loud, only steady continuation. The world forgets, as it must, and slowly you allow it to. The forgetting does not erase you, it frees you. You are not erased from history, only released from its noise. You walk the same paths, light the same fire, listen to the same wind. The distance between you and the world has not grown wider, only quieter. And in that quiet you have found something no one else can touch. A life that belongs entirely to itself, complete in its stillness, untouched by the need to be seen. The weight of quiet work. Each day ends the same way, with silence. The sun lowers behind the distant rooftops and the last thread of light fades from the wooden walls of your home. You clean your tools slowly, one by one, the rhythm steady, the movement exact. The edge of the blade glints faintly in the dim light before disappearing into its cloth covering. You wash your hands in the basin near the door, watching the water darken and ripple before you pour it into the earth outside. The act is neither ritual nor relief. It is simply what must be done. The air smells faintly of iron and ash, a scent that has long since woven itself into your skin. It no longer repels you. It is simply part of what you are. Outside, the wind moves through the empty fields, brushing against your door like a memory that refuses to fade. The grass bends in soft waves beneath the half-moon glow. You listen without turning your head, recognizing the tone of the wind as easily as another man might recognize a friend's voice. Its song changes with the seasons, sharper in winter, slower in summer, yet its presence remains constant, an unspoken companion to your evenings. It does not comfort or disturb, it simply fills the space between thoughts. In that low hum, you sense the pulse of the land, steady and indifferent, a rhythm older than your work and far beyond your reach. The fire at your side flickers weakly, more shadow than flame. It gives little heat, but you keep it alive anyway, tending to it the way you tend to every small duty, carefully, without complaint. The light moves softly across the room, painting your tools, your chair, your hands. In the stillness, you can hear the faint creak of wood settling, the crackle of the embers as they sigh and fall apart. Time stretches thin here, and you find yourself caught between one breath and the next, neither tired nor awake, simply suspended. You have long stopped measuring your life in hours. The day ends not when the sun disappears, but when the quiet settles deep enough to hold you still. Sometimes the wind carries faint echoes from the square, a dog barking, a wagon rolling over stone, the faraway sound of laughter that fades before it reaches you. And in those moments, you remember faces, not their names, not their stories, only the stillness that came before the moment, the breath before the act, the way eyes look past you as if trying to find something beyond sight. You remember how silence feels heavier in the company of others than when you are alone. Those memories do not haunt you, they simply exist, as steady as the walls around you. You have carried them long enough to know they no longer cut. They only weigh. The quiet has shape and weight. It presses gently on your shoulders, settles behind your ribs, fills the empty corners of the room. It is not a burden, but a cloak, soft, familiar, and unshakable. You wear it without thinking, its folds molded perfectly to your life. When you sit by the fire, it gathers around you, thickening the air, dulling every sound until only your own breathing remains. There are nights when the quiet feels alive, shifting subtly, as if it too adjusts itself to the rhythm of your heart. You do not fight it. To do so would be to lose the only constant you have left. You breathe deeply, letting the air move through you, slow and unhurried. The night seems to breathe with you, its vast chest rising and falling beyond the walls. You begin to sense how much of life happens in silence. The slow cooling of iron, the soft fading of footsteps, the way warmth leaves a room without making a sound. It is in these small, unseen moments that the world feels closest. You do not need company, only stillness. Stillness understands you in a way words never could. Sometimes you wonder if others know this kind of quiet, or if they fill their evenings with noise to keep it away. Perhaps they fear it, mistaking calm for emptiness. You once did too, long ago, before you understood that the absence of sound is not loneliness, but a form of truth. The quiet tells no lies, asks for no justification. It simply waits, patient, enduring, infinite. You have come to trust it more than any voice, to find in it a strange kind of mercy. As the night deepens, the wind fades to a whisper. The fire burns lower, its last ember, pulsing like a heartbeat in the dark. You sit a while longer, hands resting on your knees, eyes half closed. The silence folds over you completely now, heavy, yet kind. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to prove. The world outside has gone still, and within that stillness you feel the smallest flicker of peace. Not joy, not sorrow, only acceptance. When at last you rise to put out the flame, you pause for a moment to listen once more. The quiet is complete. The work is done. The day has ended the way it always does, with silence, faithful and whole. And as you lie down to rest, the night breathes one final time, wrapping you in the weight of its calm. Learning to forget. You close your eyes, but the quiet remains heavy. It does not leave when the fire dims, nor when the wind slows outside the window. It lingers like a weight just behind your ribs, a presence that hums in time with your breath. There is no training for this kind of silence. No lesson that prepares you for the moments after the noise has gone. When the crowd disperses, the tools are cleaned, and only the echo remains. You have learned to stand in front of 100 watching eyes without trembling, to meet the gaze of a man in his final second, and keep your hand steady. But here, in the stillness of your room, you are without armor. Here, the quiet sees you for what you are, a man built on repetition, trying to live with what repetition leaves behind. You learn, slowly, to let thoughts drift away like smoke from the fire. The mind clings to what it cannot change, circling the same memories until they dull from overuse. So you practice forgetting, not through denial, but through gentleness. When the image rises, a face, a sound, a flicker of movement, you do not fight it. You let it pass through you like wind through reeds. You tell yourself that the mind, like the body, knows how to heal if left alone. Time will dull the sound. The heart, given enough quiet, will learn its own rhythm again. The night teaches you patience, one slow hour at a time. The fire burns low, its glow reduced to the faintest red. Shadows gather along the walls, soft and shapeless, like memories losing form. You watch the last ember pulse, its light rising and falling in rhythm with your breath. You used to think fire was alive, a restless thing consuming what it touched. Now you understand it better. Fire, like memory, only survives if fed. You stop feeding it. You let it shrink until only warmth remains. The air cools, the smoke fades, and you are left with the soft ache of release. It is not peace, not yet, but it is close. The room grows dim. You can hear the slow creak of the wooden beams above, the gentle sigh of the wind finding its way through cracks in the wall. The world outside is turning still. Carts rolling through distant streets, footsteps fading on the cobblestones, the soft hum of lives continuing without you. Once, that sound filled you with longing. You imagined being part of it, even in small ways. Standing in the market crowd, hearing your name spoken without hesitation, now you listen without wanting to join. You understand that the world does not owe you a place within its rhythm. It turns with or without your presence, steady as ever. The realization is not cruel, it is freeing. You sit a while longer, your hands folded loosely in your lap. You can feel the faint pulse of your heartbeat in your fingertips. Steady, even calm. The heaviness of the day has settled deep, but it no longer hurts. It simply exists like the weight of a coat after rain, heavier than before but still familiar. You do not wish it gone. Some burdens, you have learned, are not meant to vanish, only to soften with time. You carry them until they stop pressing and start blending into the rhythm of your life. Outside, the fields lie quiet beneath the moon. The trees sway gently, their branches whispering against the night. Somewhere far off, a door closes, a dog barks once, then all returns to stillness. You breathe with the world, each inhale a small surrender, each exhale a slow release. The sound of your breath becomes its own kind of prayer, wordless, endless, unspoken. And most nights it almost fades. The noise, the memory, the burden. It does not disappear completely, but it softens at the edges, becomes easier to hold. You stop counting the things you have done, stop measuring what cannot be undone. The mind learns what the hands already knew, how to release, how to move forward without forgetting, how to live with what remains. There are no lessons written for this, no wisdom carved in stone. Only the quiet and your willingness to sit within it until it turns gentle. The night holds you gently, as it always does. It does not forgive or condemn. It simply wraps itself around you, cool and steady, erasing the sharp lines of thought. You lie down, feeling the grain of the wooden floor beneath your bed, the faint warmth of the dying fire nearby. The stars outside hang still and distant, their light crossing miles of silence before reaching you. For a moment, you feel yourself dissolve into that vast calm, not gone, but weightless. The mind empties. The body rests. The world continues, and in that final breath before sleep, you understand that forgetting is not the loss of memory, but the easing of its hold, the quiet act of letting go. The night breathes once more, and you at last breathe with it. When reputation fades. Years pass quietly, as all things do when left untouched. Seasons move like pages turning in a book you've read too many times to notice. The work continues until one morning it doesn't. Your hands, once steady, begin to tremble. The same fingers that once held steel with perfect certainty now hesitate over the smallest task. Your back stiffens with the weight of memory, not of guilt or glory, but of repetition. The years have carved into you not scars, but grooves, long paths of habit that the body follows even when the mind grows weary. You wake before dawn as always, though there is no reason now to hurry. The air feels the same, the wind still whispers through the trees, but something in the rhythm has shifted. You walk the familiar road toward the square, though your steps are slower, more careful. The town has grown busier, newer faces filling the places of the old. Few remember you. A baker nods, unsure why, perhaps mistaking you for someone's grandfather. Children pass without a glance. You reach the platform as you have 1,000 times before, and there, another man stands where you once stood. He nods politely, a gesture of respect or routine, you cannot tell. His movements are steady, his expression calm. You see yourself in him. The same precision, the same stillness, the same silence before the act. For a moment, it feels as if time has folded over itself, as though you are watching your own beginning from the other side of an ending. The crowd gathers, as it always has. They barely notice the change. To them, it is the same ritual, the same pattern, repeated by hands, indistinguishable from yours. They do not remember that you once stood there, that your name once held the weight of authority and fear. The town requires only the act, not the man behind it. The faces in the crowd shift with time, but their gaze remains the same. Curious, unsettled, unwilling to look too long. The new executioner lifts his blade, and for a fleeting second you feel a strange peace watching him. He is not your replacement, he is your continuation. The work has outlived you, and that, you realize, is how the world endures.
You turn away before the act is done. There is no need to witness it again. You make your way home, past the fields where the wind bends the grass as it always has, past the wooden post that once marked the border of your isolation. The road seems longer now, not because of distance, but because of stillness, the kind that settles when purpose fades. You pass your own house as though approaching a memory. The door creaks the same way it always has. Inside, the air smells of ash and old wood. The tools are gone. Their absence feels lighter than their presence ever did.
You sit by the window and watch the day move on. No one visits. The world no longer calls for your hand, and you no longer wait for it. There are no goodbyes, no dismissal, no farewell. The change happened quietly, like the shifting of wind at dusk. You simply faded from the schedule of life, replaced by another shadow in the same place. The thought does not sting. It feels natural, like breath leaving the body after a long sigh. You understand now that the world never truly holds on to anyone. It only carries the echo of usefulness. When that echo ends, it does not grieve. It simply continues.
Your name, once whispered in caution or fear, now disappears altogether. It lingers for a time in the minds of a few, then drifts away like dust in light. Even the record books forget to mention it. But you find comfort in this vanishing. Fame was never yours, only function. To be forgotten is to finally be free of the weight of expectation. There is no reputation to protect, no image to uphold, no history to defend. What remains is simpler: air, wind, the warmth of a fading sun on your hands. You are not needed, and in that realization, you find peace.
The days begin to fold into one another, gentle, indistinct, without demand. You rise with the light because the habit remains, not because the world requires it. You tend the small fire, you mend what needs mending, you walk the same path to the stream. The quiet is no longer heavy, it has turned soft, like a blanket worn smooth by years of touch. You begin to see beauty in small things, the sound of birds returning at dawn, the way the first frost glitters across the fields, the slow dance of smoke curling from the chimney. These moments, unremarkable to others, hold the shape of meaning. Sometimes you think of the man who took your place. You wonder if his hands have begun to tremble yet, if his nights stretch long with silence. But then you stop, knowing the answer doesn't matter. The work continues as it should. The line between one life and another blurs easily in the passage of time. The world has always required its keepers of order, quiet figures who fade so others may rest easy. You were one of them, and that is enough. And in that quiet fading, there is peace. the kind that comes when the world forgets to look for you. It is not sadness that fills you, but stillness, like the hush that follows a distant bell. You sit by the window until the light fades, your reflection merging with the glass, your form becoming part of the dusk. The air grows cooler, the fields darken, and the stars begin to appear, one by one, unhurried, unbothered. You close your eyes, breathing in the night, and feel the last trace of weight lift from your chest. The world has moved on, and you, finally, have learned how to be still. The night deepens, settling slowly over the land like a soft blanket. The air cools and thickens, wrapping itself around the old wooden frame of your home. The walls, worn by years of wind and silence, seem to breathe with the darkness. Inside, the last traces of warmth drift upward from the dying fire, its glow no more than a faint pulse beneath the ash. The axe rests where you left it. Clean, still, harmless now. Its metal catches one last thread of light before the shadows close around it. Outside, the wind moves through the grass, gentle and unhurried. It bends the stalks in long, quiet waves, erasing the footprints that led you home. Every sound feels distant. The soft groan of a branch, the faint rustle of leaves, all of it swallowed by the calm of the hour. The world continues as it always has, calm and endless, indifferent and kind in its own way. The stars shimmer faintly above the fields, their light traveling across centuries to reach this quiet place. You have done your part. The weight of years no longer presses upon you. The tasks that once defined you have lost their urgency, their edges smoothed by time. You have become what you were meant to be. A still point in the turning of the world, a small truth the night itself remembers. The silence that once felt heavy now feels earned, belonging entirely to you. You close your eyes, not from weariness, but from peace. The sound of the wind fades to a low hum, blending with the steady rhythm of your breath. The walls hold steady, the fire sighs once more, and the darkness folds gently around you. Now the silence belongs to you. It does not demand, it does not remind, it simply rests, like a slow tide returning to shore. The air softens, the night holds, and sleep follows.